legal discussions, legal documents, which they have still embargoed for the next 6 years through the duration of this agreement. Unless we have that context and that commentary, we still are going to have trouble making sense of this. But let's just say that it was simply that agreement, a highly technical legal contract that is going to reinvent our entire economy, attack our freedom of speech, change our national sovereignty. Do you think that 20 pages a day would be reasonable? That would be kind of an aggressive pace, but that would take 300 days at that pace to read through this bill. Maybe what Ben Carson and Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush, all these people who have seen this and agree with it, maybe what they could do is get the Cliff Notes version from Jeff Sessions, who actually took the time, Senator Sessions took the time to look at the TPP, and he warned people about it even before they passed the Trade Promotion Act. And now he is saying, we have to kill this thing before it goes any further. He says, we have to repeal this fast-track trade authority. And let me explain to Ben Carson and to Ben Carson's followers why we should be concerned about this. In the words of the senator, the honest senator, who actually did take the time to read it. He says it is by definition anti-democratic. No individual American has the resources to endure his or her economic and political interests to ensure that they are safeguarded within this vast global regulatory structure. The predictable and surely desired result of the TPP is to put a greater distance between those who are governed and the governed. It puts those who make the rules out of the reach of those who live under the rules. It empowers unelected regulators who cannot be recalled or voted out of office. In turn, it diminishes the power of the people's bulwark, their constitutionally formed Congress. And he goes on to say, among the TPP's endless pages are rules for labor, environment, immigration, every aspect of global commerce, a new international regulatory structure to promulgate, implement, and enforce these rules. But of course, Ben Carson can't be concerned to read that. He just endorses it and puts himself out for sale. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk to Roger Stone, a consultant for Donald Trump, as well as an advisor to presidents since Richard Nixon. We're going to talk to him about Hillary Clinton and his new book, The Clintons' War on Women. We'll be right back.
Your liver can be full of fatty deposits, built-up toxins, and even dangerous objects known as liver stones. We worked with the top developers in the field of detox to take tried and true herbs and other compounds known to safely cleanse the liver and fuse it with the latest research and technological development on concentrating these ingredients to give you the maximum effect. Liver Shield is the only liver support product on the market that uses a patented Spigirex blend of powerful organic herbs that support detoxification. And when you visit InfoWarsLife.com, see the instructional video on how to do a 6-day liver detox. This isn't a game, and let me tell you, the results are dramatic. Liver Shield is totally organic and made of the safest high-quality herbs. But that said, you need to consult your physician before you do the full detox. Liver Shield can also be used daily by itself for overall upkeep of the liver. Secure your Liver Shield today exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com for the lowest price available. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139. Brain Force is here. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this the last few months. You probably noticed I've been more crazed, more focused, less brain fog, more energy, more special reports, and it's because of Brain Force.
One of the worst things with most energy products is it's not sustainable, right? You're gonna crash and gonna feel really bad afterwards. This has a bunch of different antioxidants and compounds and polyphenols.
Everybody's on these drugs to knock their brain out because the brain's so fried.
We kept changing this formula over and over and over again until it became sort of a grand puzzle. For example, the L-theanine inside of it, that is activated by the different compounds in the yerba mate that we put inside of it as well. This just increases the compounds you already have.
This is what you're actually designed to run on.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a car will run on one form of junkie gas, but it runs really good on what it's designed for. You will find Brain Force, Survival Shield X2, and other game-changing products at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
I want more candy. I want more video games. Line.
And And it's that type of behavior that spurred me to do the research to develop a true nutraceutical formula that was designed to smooth out and help children focus. All of our children are hit with modern mind control. Television, music, fast food, GMOs, sugars, you name it. Young humans have not yet developed their nervous system and are being hammered daily by globalist concoctions. It's no wonder they can't focus and calm down and then are put on dangerous psychotropic drugs. Working with my team, we set out to find the best formula with the highest quality ingredients that children would actually like and take. We worked with the leading manufacturer in nutritional supplements that are safe for children to bring you the most affordable and powerful calming formula out there. Introducing Child Ease with herbs and calming extracts like chamomile and lemon balm and essential nutrients that taste great. Obtain your Child Ease today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's Child Ease exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. Knockout is back. If you want a product that has 10 known ingredients that naturally get your body to relax, your brain to relax, so you get deep, restful sleep, Knockout's it. InfoWarsLife.com. L-theanine, hops flower extract, lemon balm extract, valerian root extract, chamomile flower extract, L-tryptophan extract, melatonin, and more. All organic, all the natural sources. It's the same price as leading brands of melatonin that are 3 milligrams a piece. It has 3 milligrams, the standard recommended dose for an adult. It's got the GABA, so it would probably cost $50 to take all this as separate pills. It's $19.95. You take one or two of these, and it just is really clean, restful sleep is what the reviews are. It's what I've experienced. And it just synergistically puts everything in there. InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com. Or call 888-253-3139.
Well, tonight we're joined by Roger Stone. Of course, he has a very long history with presidents throughout history. He's written 3 books. This is the 3rd book we're going to talk to him about tonight. But of course, he's written about who killed JFK, the case against LBJ, Nixon's secrets, the rise, the fall, the untold truth about the president and Watergate. And now this book that we're going to talk to him about tonight, Clinton's War on Women. I'm very anxious to talk to Mr. Stone. He's a political consultant, lobbyist, a strategist, and of course, you have been there for a long time at the epicenter of history, really.
Yeah, I like to say I spent 40 years in the corroded rectum of the two-party system. You know, I worked on the Senate side for Senator Bob Dole as an assistant to Dole. I worked on the House side as an assistant to Congressman Robert Steele. I was a lobbyist, which is the job I liked the least. I'm a veteran of 9 Republican presidential campaigns, starting with Richard Nixon, who was really my mentor. Wow. I was the youngest member of the staff of the committee to re-elect the president, the notorious
Creep.
committee. Yeah, I went to the Watergate grand jury myself 3 times.
Really?
I was only 19 years old.
Wow.
I worked as a senior aide to Ronald Reagan in 3 presidential campaigns, 1976, 1980, 1984. I reluctantly came in at the end of the 1988 election to help George H.W. Bush. One of the things in my life I regret. I dropped in for the recount because Jim Baker, who had been Reagan's chief of staff, was a friend and someone who I owed politically. And in my business, if you don't pay off your debts, you're out of business pretty quick. And then, you know, frankly, with the nomination of Mitt Romney, despite my long sentimental attachment to the Republican Party, I left to become a libertarian. I just couldn't stomach the fact that the Republican Party of Barry Goldwater, a party dedicated to small government and fiscal responsibility and personal freedom and liberty, had become the Wall Street Party, had become the party of endless war,
yes,
erosion of civil liberties, massive debt, spending worse than the Democrats in the Bush years, far worse. I couldn't take it anymore. So,
and of course, Romney Care was essentially the same as Obamacare. He had done that with Ted Kennedy, a perfect example of the how at the top they're exactly the same.
What aggravated me was that Romney's running around the country saying, Ronald Reagan, Ronald Reagan. You know what, in 1980, you know who he supported for president? Paul Tsongas, the left-wing senator from Massachusetts.
Sure.
Mitt Romney wasn't even a registered Republican until he ran for governor, and then he became a Republican to run. So he's just an opportunist. And he couldn't even sound like, you know, I'm a severely conservative. What does that mean?
Yeah.
The guy couldn't even talk the talk, never mind walk the walk. So I helped Governor Gary Johnson, who's a very accomplished and pro-freedom, pro-liberty, 2-term governor of New Mexico, who had a great track record for economic growth and personal freedom. I helped get him on the ballot in 48 states. And I found that to be both a great experience and a very frustrating experience, because the Presidential Commission on Debates is not appointed by the president.
Right.
It's not a commission, and it's not about debate. It's about limiting debate to the two Tweedledum, Tweedledee, two-party duopoly that stand for the same thing. They didn't want anybody to know that there was a third choice.
And of course, this is a guy who was a very popular two-term governor as a Republican of a Democrat state. And they would say, you're not going to be invited to the debates because you didn't show up in the polls, but they wouldn't even put his name on the polls. Well, it's
a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're not in the debate, you can't rise in the polls. And if you don't rise in the polls, you can't get in the debate.
And if they don't put your name on the poll, you're not going to do well on the poll either. So they've got it rigged multiple angles.
Yeah. And they changed the rules, as Ross Perot found out in '92. When you reach a certain level, or with Ron Paul at the Republican National Convention, you needed 6 states to have you needed a majority of 6 states to vote to have your name put on the ballot. So when Congressman Paul got to 6 states, they quickly changed the rule to 8. Yeah. They did the same thing with Gary Johnson. You needed to have you had to reach a certain number of the votes in 2 successive polls. So when he met that threshold, they changed the rule very quickly to 3. Yeah. They didn't want the people to know that there was a candidate who wanted to end the war in Afghanistan. They didn't want people to know there was a candidate who would have legalized marijuana and ended the war on drugs. They didn't want them to know that there was a candidate who would repeal the Patriot Act and the NDAA. They didn't want people to know that those alternatives were even available. I met a very rich woman the other day, hedge fund manager, pro-liberty, and she said, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't want to vote. I didn't like Obama and I didn't like Romney, and I just felt I had no choice. I said, well, what about Governor Gary Johnson? She said, who? Yeah. She didn't even know he ran. Yeah. Because the New York Times never covered it. They barely mentioned his name as if he didn't even exist, and she lived in New York City. She was unaware that there was an alternative.
Now, of course, you've been at the epicenter of politics, as you point out, going way back, going back to Nixon when you were actively involved. You got interested with Barry Goldwater, but of course, recently you've been at the epicenter of everything with Donald Trump. Until August, you were one of his inside campaign advisors. Now, he's somebody who knows about the war on drugs. Let me give you this quote going back to April 15th, 1990. He met with some people. He blamed the country's drug problems on politicians who, quote, don't have any guts. He said enforcement efforts were a joke. He said we're losing badly the war on drugs. He told 700 people at the luncheon Friday, you have to legalize drugs to win that war. You have to take the profits away from the drug czars. You and I both know that's exactly true.
Yes.
As libertarians. So yes. Is he going to come out with that? Is he going to be able to do that with the Republicans, or is he going to have to wait until the general election to say something like that?
It's important to understand that Donald Trump is a man who has never had an alcoholic drink in his entire life, not even a glass of wine. His brother died of acute alcoholism, so addiction is something that he's experienced firsthand. But he understands that incarceration, which is very expensive and ineffective, is not the solution to the problem, and that the enforcement efforts are just expensive and failed. So, yeah, I think he would seek to view drug addiction as a health problem, not a law enforcement problem. And he realizes when you compare the dollars to the results that the war on drugs has been a big, expensive failure. Trump is about results. He's a businessman.
And it's failed for 44 years.
Right. Businessmen look at any program or any business in this case, because government really is a business, and they look at the cost and the effect to see if anything they do has been cost effective.
You got a lot of people that are talking about that right now. This weekend, you had Chris Christie had a viral video that came out where he's talking about a friend of his who got addicted to prescription drugs, talking about how the war on drugs is a failure. We need to treat it as a medical situation. But of course, he's still for having the law enforcement branch of this. He doesn't want to legalize marijuana. As a matter of fact, Chris Christie would come after the states who have legalized it, like Colorado does. I'm really confused about his situation. Yeah, but you've also got others who are now coming out. You know, Jeb Bush is talking about his daughter now, when before he was coming after the newspapers that they talked about her. Now Jeb Bush is talking about his daughter who was addicted to alcohol and prescription drugs.
I think Jeb is concerned because he is worried that his own background as both a drug dealer and a drug user, when compared to his support for much tougher penalties, mandatory penalties for those caught with small amounts of drugs, is a question of epic hypocrisy. Senator Rand Paul raised this question. I mean, the truth is, because Jeb Bush is white and privileged and wealthy, he can do drugs and pay no penalty.
Yeah.
But the poor African-American guy who gets caught with a little bit of marijuana for his personal use in Florida, I can tell you where he's going.
Yeah.
Jail.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I think he is concerned that that some of his earlier dealings are likely to become public, and therefore he's now trying to soften his views as the macho drug warrior that he is.
Mm-hmm.
I have a book coming out in January, Jeb and the Bush Crime Family,
Yes.
which really details Jeb's early days and his involvement with drugs prior to his government service.
That's one I really want to read. I really want to have you back to talk about that, because right now, I guess he'll still be there because he's got a lot of money that he collected when he began, but he's not collecting any money right now.